The decade of cryptocurrency is upon us, and if you need any proof of this, look no further than the creators and the controllers of our current monetary system. For years, the centralized fractional reserve banking system laughed and mocked the cryptocurrency ecosystem and said that there was no way that assets like Bitcoin could go mainstream. However, what we've seen over the last few months has been nothing short of a complete about-face from the monetary powers that be on cryptocurrency. And what we have to look forward to is not just months, but years of sustained growth of this industry, spurred on by the largest financial institutions in the world turning to cryptocurrencies, in addition to the world's biggest financial powerhouses and sovereign nations. Whatever bullishness you think we may have had during this early bull trend in 2020, the reality is, if these dominoes start falling, this will be completely invisible on a chart that brings in not just tens or hundreds of billions, but tens or hundreds of trillions of new capital into what can now be undeniably called the future of money. If you guys are excited to go down the rabbit hole and learn all about the internet of money and how not just companies, but actual countries are starting to turn to crypto en masse, then do me a favor and destroy that like button, because today's episode is truly special as we give you the red pill and show you how the world will look in the not too distant future. Remember that each and every comment on this video is entered to win your very own Ledger Nano S. As we talk about the disappearance of the existing banking system, you need to understand that that gives you complete financial freedom. But also it comes with the cost that is financial responsibility. And one of the best ways to protect your funds is a Ledger Nano S. So I'll be giving one away each and every week here on the channel, and all you have to do to enter is comment below. Let's start first with the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, and their view that has stood now for years that cryptocurrencies are a natural evolution of money, and that in their current form, they don't stand to displace the current fractional reserve banking system and monetary policies that have reigned supreme in our fiat-powered financial system for the past several decades and even more in other jurisdictions. But the reality is the IMF makes the case that very soon, more technological advancements can bring cryptocurrencies to the masses, and it can call into question the middlemen, the banking system that has thrived off of controlling currency. To quote a 2017 article, the IMF head, Christine Lagarde, foresees the end of banking and the triumph of cryptocurrencies. In short, Bitcoin puts a question mark on the fractional banking model we know today. Let's start with virtual currencies. To be clear, this is not about digital payments in our existing currencies through PayPal and other e-money providers such as Alipay China or M-Pesa in Kenya. Virtual currencies are in a different category because they provide their own unit of account and payment systems. These systems allow for peer-to-peer transactions without a central clearinghouse, without central banks. For now, virtual currencies such as Bitcoin pose little or no challenge to the existing order of fiat currencies and central banks because they are too volatile, too risky, too energy intensive because the underlying technologies are not yet scalable. Many are too opaque for regulators and some have been hacked. But many of these are technological challenges that could be addressed over time. Not so long ago, experts argued that personal computers would never be adopted and that tablets would only be used as expensive coffee trays. So I think it may not be wise to dismiss virtual currencies. For instance, think of countries with weak institutions and unstable national currencies. Let's take, for example, Venezuela, or of course the Turkish lira, which has recently imploded. These are phenomenal examples of sending Bitcoin to the moon in a locally denominated currencies chart. And as fiat currencies weaken, we can see the demand for more stable, more reliable assets. Instead of adopting the currency of another country, such as the US dollar, some of these economies might see a growing use of virtual currencies. Call it dollarization 2.0. This is a key piece of data here, because dollarization is what has held the United States in its financial hegemony over the world. Over 80% of all global transactions were anchored in US dollar value, even if they weren't transacted upon in US dollars. That dollarization of the world has given the US possess a tremendous place of unique importance and protection around the world, and our monetary policy allows us to print money and remain in control. IMF experience shows us that there is a tipping point beyond which coordination around a new currency is exponential. In the Seychelles, for example, dollarization jumped 20% in 2006 to 60% in 2008. So the point they're making here is that currency adoption can happen extremely fast, and that a dollarization or the adoption of a foreign currency, in the example of the Seychelles, can happen almost abruptly. And this is something that you must consider not just here in the United States, but when thinking of undeveloped economies across the world, in rural Asia and Africa more specifically. But think about places where there's not a lot of banks, where there's not a lot of institutions and clearinghouses where you can get access to those US dollars. What about those not included in our modern financial system, or those countries that have weak or undesirable currencies running their economies? Those places are ideal for what they call dollarization, or essentially taking a first world fiat currency and spreading it as the de facto go-to currency of that region. So as news leaked earlier this week that China plans to use its digital yuan at the 2022 Winter Olympics, and of course this is coming on the heels of years of preparation, of course that were sped up by the announcement of Facebook's Libra. If you guys were not following the story, the announcement of the Facebook Libra, which was essentially a $1 stablecoin that would be completely borderless and backed by a multi-billion person user base that is within the Facebook, WhatsApp, and Instagram ecosystem, what you see is a direct threat to the hegemony of existing currencies. However, to China, this move would be as threatening as the US launching their own central bank digital currency. And that's why we saw plans for China's digital yuan rapidly moved up to a top priority as soon as word leaked that the Libra crypto might be coming to market. So remember what we said about dollarization and essentially having a digital currency that does not need to go through a central bank clearinghouse. Now we can understand why China's plans for having their own yuanization or spreading of their own national currency sees direct competition from a Facebook Libra, or as we're going to talk about in just a second, a US dollar central bank digital currency. So it's important to realize that trials of this digital currency and the supposed use of it date back to articles that have been published as early as 2014. That's 6 years ago. But what we know now is as recently as April 20th, we heard that internal tests of the digital currency, the digital yuan, are being conducted in at least 4 cities around China. The reality here is that China, for all intensive purposes, appears to be very close to bringing this digital yuan to market, and that 2022 Olympics might be the big unveiling party that they've been waiting for. So it should come as no surprise that within the last few days, the United States government, the Fed, has teamed up with MIT, one of the leading scientific institutions in the country, to develop their own plans for a CBDC. Now, this has been talked about before, and it was even talked about in distributing stimulus at the beginning of the pandemic. However, now what we're seeing is the real plans for China to advance their own digital currency is going to push the United States to either digitize, evolve to a crypto native CBDC, or essentially they will be losing the race to dollarize or to spread their own national currencies in areas of the world that are typically less exposed to modern banking systems. And the reality of this, as we've seen with the Seychelles, is that these changes within economies can happen extremely fast. So if the Chinese yuan is able to spread rapidly throughout various countries, it could pose a serious risk to the hegemony of the US dollar that the US has enjoyed for so many decades. And remember what I said, there is a very big difference between a US dollar crisis and a financial crisis. A financial crisis we are trying to and have proven that we can print our way out of. However, when we have a dollar crisis, the actual ability to print more dollars significantly drops. And if you refer to the video we did just a couple of days ago, the velocity of money in the United States has been an absolute free fall, meaning the amount of money we need to print to stimulate the economy has grown exponentially, not even factoring in inflation. And this forced move from China, pushing the United States towards a digital dollar that will of course make for a completely fluid and seamless transition into other digital assets that we know and love like Bitcoin, sound hard-capped digital gold, which will make for an amazing missing foundational layer of the crypto economy of the future, we also see adoption of assets like Ethereum and blockchain technology on a scale in the centralized banking world that we've never seen it before. Let's take a look at this clip where essentially the co-founder of Ethereum and the creator of Consensus explains how Consensus just acquired JP Morgan's enterprise Ethereum platform, Quorum, and receives a strategic investment from JP Morgan.
First move, digital assets and blockchain technology taking another step towards the mainstream in a further blending of what I see as institutional finance with 21st century technology. Consensus buying JP Morgan's Ethereum-based blockchain unit Quorum. Now, as part of the deal, JP Morgan will also invest an undisclosed sum in Consensus. It's a company that develops software based on the Ethereum blockchain. Real-life examples of what Consensus has worked on include facilitating faster payment technology and improving supply chains. Joe Lubin is the founder of Consensus and co-founder of Ethereum and joins us now. Joe, fantastic to have you on the show. Huge congratulations on this deal. I know it's been rumored for a while. Just explain what this means and what additional powers this will give you to make real-world improvements.
Hi, Julia. Thanks for having me on today. As you indicated, Consensus is announcing today that we are acquiring JP Morgan's Quorum Enterprise Ethereum blockchain platform. We additionally will see an investment, a strategic investment from JP Morgan, and have a seat on the board dedicated to JP Morgan. We'll be working together with JP Morgan to merge the technical roadmaps of our own Hyperledger Besu client, which is an Ethereum mainnet compatible client, with the Quorum technical roadmap. And under a commercial agreement, we will be supporting JP Morgan's Interbank Information Network, the IIN, and JPM Coin Network. So we will be bringing a much more comprehensive enterprise Ethereum solution to not just JP Morgan and the hundreds of financial institutions on their networks, but the additional hundreds of institutions around the world that make use of enterprise Ethereum and that are increasingly starting to make use of public mainnet Ethereum.
So there is a ton to unpack in this, but what we see here is an announcement that essentially the JP Morgan Interbank Information Network is now under Consensus control, meaning that some of the world's biggest banking infrastructure and some of the world's biggest banking players are now actively invested in and now turning the wheel over to Consensus, which is of course one of the pillars of the Ethereum ecosystem. And if you haven't figured it out, the writing is on the wall that there is no longer a war against cryptocurrency, but a race to implement cryptocurrency into our modern banking world as deeply as a central bank digital currency and as broadly as interbank transfer technology. This takes aim squarely at the current SWIFT legacy system that we have. And to me, it shows a complete capitulation on the side of JP Morgan, whose CEO Jamie Dimon famously railed against Bitcoin before secretly buying it off the market during a dip. So we know that the bankers are interested. We've seen active FUD campaigns, and what it seems like 2020 is the year the mask finally comes off, and all the bankers and even the central bankers and the heads of monetary policy at sovereign nations are starting to show their true colors, that they recognize the power and potential of digital currency, and that this is the future. So if you have any doubts that the 2020s will be seen as the decade of cryptocurrency, look no further than the launch of China's digital Yuan. And of course, the news doesn't stop there, as we have MasterCard Asia filing for a patent for Tangle-based device billing system. Tangle is a distributed ledger technology as well. It's not the same as blockchain, but it's in the family of digital currencies. We, of course, had the historic announcement from the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency that affirms just earlier this year that now banks can hold your cryptos and be custodians of your cryptos legally. This is, of course, very close to the time that we heard PayPal and Venmo to roll out crypto buying and selling, MasterCard and Visa making bold moves towards mass crypto adoption. If there was ever a doubt in your mind as to the future of the digital currency space, if there was ever a doubt that the 2020s will be seen as the decade of crypto, no longer are these technologies in their pubescence, but they are blossoming into their ultimate forms. The reality is that those greenback dollars will soon become digital. The digital yuan will seek to spread itself throughout unbanked regions of the world and assert more hegemony for China, which is of course a top priority for the US to counter. There is absolutely no choice for the United States Federal Reserve. You either play the game or you get left behind, because you're not going to be able to build enough banks around the world and circulate those old-fashioned US dollars through clearinghouses as fast as China can deploy their digital yuan and get it on every smartphone in Africa and rural Asia. The reality is that the US needs to move fast, or it will never reach dollarization 2.0, because China will have sown its seed everywhere. And so that is the true battle we're seeing, where China's move forward is forcing the United States to move most likely years, if not decades, before it would have otherwise chosen to evolve. We're seeing already the moves from JP Morgan, the existing banking system, the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency, and we're seeing now an explosion of a trend that could see an upending of our current centralized financial system in the form of DeFi, decentralized finance, allowing you to access financial services trustlessly around the world without ever needing to be approved by a bank. These types of innovations are unstoppable and undeniable. And so if you're here now, you can imagine how early you are. Maybe at its highest, roughly 1% of the world's population has ever used cryptocurrency. So if you've ever wondered whether you're part of the 1% or the 99%, if you're already here in crypto, that answer is clear. So the question now is when and how, but no longer if, cryptocurrencies are set to take over our existing monetary system. The greatest wealth transfer in the history of our world will take place. Will you be there first and be on the receiving end? Or will you be there last and have to play catch up like the United States is currently doing with China? If you guys enjoyed this episode, if it brought you value, do me a favor and obliterate that like button, not just for me, but of course for the YouTube algorithm. It really helps the channel grow. Of course, remember that every comment on this video is entered to win a free Ledger Nano S. We also have a really cool promotion happening with Unstoppable Domains. They essentially allow you to spin up your own websites that are powered by blockchain, and you can have really cool websites that are .crypto addresses. For example, you could have houses.crypto or apartments.crypto, whatever you want. It's the same race I see with the centralized website domains, except these, no one can ever take away from you. No one can ever shut them down or censor them. As the name would suggest, they are unstoppable domains. Of course, now you can actually buy them with Crypto.com Pay. So there's a link in my description to go check out Unstoppable Domains. And if you buy with Crypto.com Pay, which is one of their checkout options, you'll get a 30% discount. And of course, if you use my referral link, it does support the channel, and I appreciate that. And if you've been following the channel, we've been doing some amazing work covering the most exciting new digital assets to hit the space, technologies that really have legs and are undervalued in the market. And I highly encourage you, if you're not already subscribed, to subscribe and make sure you put that little bell notification on. That way, when I put out a time-sensitive video, like an altcoin gem video, you can be one of the first ones to hear about it. Of course, if you want to connect with me directly, I encourage you to follow me on Twitter. We're building a really fun community over there at Leo Trades. And of course, if you want to connect with me on a more personal level and chat with me at all hours of the night, join my Telegram group, t.me/ElioTradesCrypto. As usual, my name's Elio Trades. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you very soon on the next episode.